What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the newest episode of the Believe in Oregon podcast. I'm Zachary, Neel. He's Jonathan Stewart. Jay Stu, what's up, man? How we doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. How's your holiday season? I feel like we're kind of on the outside of this now. How was that?
I was full of cheer and happiness
That's
and
great.
food and gratefulness, all the things above,
Yeah.
and a lot of the elf hiding everywhere.
Oh, we have not gotten into that yet. My kids are too young for that, so I'm kind of
Yeah.
cherishing this before I have to focus on that. I don't know. What's your thought on that?
My wife handles all of it, by the
Okay.
way, and she does a fantastic job of keeping it interesting for the kids with all the notes, all
Yeah.
the trickery that the elf puts them
Yeah.
through every day.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty impressive, actually.
Okay. See, just
So
she can maybe hear me, so I'm gonna say this quieter. Knowing my wife, I think I'm gonna have to handle all that once we do it, but we'll see. We'll see how that
ain't no
goes.
elf. Ain't no elf on Christmas. It's all about Jesus.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it was a good holiday season, but I'm happy that we're now like in game mode. Now we've got a few days. I fly out to Pasadena. We're recording this on Sunday night. I fly out in actually 12 hours. It's about 5:45 right now. I know you're headed out there tomorrow too.
Yeah.
Should be a good week ahead. I'm looking forward to it.
I am looking forward to it as well. It was cool. I was at the Rose Bowl in 2020 or 2020,
2019, yeah, 2020.
2019, 2020, but it was
Mhm.
2020 when I was there.
Yeah.
But and that was fun. The game wasn't as interesting as I would have hoped. I thought
Mm,
that
that was a good
our
game.
off
What are you
it
talking
was a
about?
good well, we won,
We
but
won by 28-27
in my opinion, I felt like we depended heavily on the legs of Justin Herbert,
for the
and
first
would have
time in
loved.
his college career.
I was expecting to see him air that thing out. That's
That's
all.
true. That's very
I was
true.
expecting him
Yeah.
to air it out. That's all.
Well,
But
this
it doesn't really
yeah,
matter because he's actually winning games, doing it both ways now in the league.
he's looking
So
damn good in the NFL.
he's looking
Yeah.
real good.
This is the week we've been waiting for, not just for the past month, but all season, really. I mean, Oregon versus Ohio State, the Rose Bowl, win or go home. It feels like you couldn't write this script more perfectly. The only thing I would change is making it for the national championship, not a
Hmm.
quarterfinal game. Like, that's the only thing that feels off about this. But I don't know. I mean, if you told us back in August or September that, like, Oregon versus Ohio State, Rose Bowl, like, this is what we were getting, it's pretty hard to say no to that.
Yeah. Um, I'm not gonna say that I told everyone so, but I told everyone so. We would be undefeated in this situation, playing whomever
Yeah.
gets to play us. Right. How I see it is Ohio State gets an opportunity to play us again.
Yeah.
That's how I see this game.
Yeah.
But really, it's all about the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah.
It's all
Well,
about us.
speaking of the Ducks, I know we hinted at it a little bit before we started recording, but they dropped some new uniforms for these games.
Oh
Woo!
yeah, they looking
Man,
sweet.
those I see. I don't get it. A lot of the fan base that I see on Twitter don't like these uniforms. The chrome domes, the green apple tops, the white pants, these incredible Kobe 6 white cleats. These are, I think, maybe the best of the year, in my opinion. Among the best of the year. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite are the the all black uni.
Yeah, the
Uh,
fly era was great.
yeah, those are my favorite. But for a game like this, where you're playing in such a prestigious event, there's a lot of history.
Mhm.
This is a uniform that has eloquence, that has
Yeah.
a professionalism to it.
It
It
has
has
that
like
country club feel.
yeah, like, hey, we about to go to California. We're
Yep.
gonna look real nice and pretty, and like we got our little dusty white pants on, and
Well, and
and
I
we're
mean, in
gonna
the Rose Bowl, you have to wear the chrome helmets. You just
yeah,
have to because you get that sunset. They turn them
that
pink in the night
sunset
sky.
turns them pink. Exactly.
Have to do it.
It's a whole different effect as far as those pictures that people are gonna be taking.
Mhm.
Man, it's gonna be a
Yeah.
beautiful day. It's gonna be a beautiful thing. And that sunset,
Oh,
that's one thing I remember the most about being in that Rose Bowl
mhm.
for that game in 2020 was the sunset.
Yep.
Like being in the stands and seeing how beautiful the stadium was, the mixtures of the fans, the colors in the stadium. It was like chills just looking at it.
Yeah.
So can't wait to get out there and experience it again.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Well, we got a lot coming today. We're gonna talk a little bit. I want to start with talking about some rest versus momentum. We're gonna get into take and bake a little bit. I've got something that's been baking for a couple of months now that I'm gonna not get off my chest, but kind of unleash. And then we're gonna get into preview and look at betting lines and some bold predictions and score predictions, stuff like that. But let's talk about rest versus momentum to start. I really want to get your take on this because obviously you're someone that played college football for a long time, played in the league for a long time. But I have what I feel like is an unpopular opinion about this. I feel like in this situation where you're either Oregon and you've had this long layoff or Ohio State who played a game most recently, I'd rather be Ohio State if I'm being honest. Ohio State right now played 9 days ago, and by the time
Mhm.
the game comes around, it'll be 12 days ago. So it's not like they're on like a back-to-back or something. Like if it was to the instance like Oregon will have had 25 days between games when the Rose Bowl comes. If it was 25 days of rest versus 7 days of rest, yeah, I think I might rather be Oregon. But like this conversation about rest versus momentum and getting the bye and rest, like recuperating, recoverating, I think, like, I don't know, man. I kind of buy into it. I would honestly rather be Ohio State right now because they have the momentum and it's not like they're, exhausted from playing a few days ago. They've had almost 2 weeks rest by the time this comes. I just worry a little bit about the rust factor for Oregon. What do you think?
Um, if this was a different organization,
Yeah.
I think we've had proof in the pudding. Watching the behind the scenes of what Dan Lanning and his coaching staff does week in and week out to prepare these guys for their games.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of intentionality that goes on in preparation. They don't just say, "Okay, well, we lucked up and had ourselves a bye week." They
Yeah.
anticipated having a bye week.
Yeah.
If you think about it, Dan Lanning went into games basically giving these guys, you know, access to the future.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're gonna go in this game, and at a certain point in the time in this game, I'm gonna point to the stands while you guys watch all the fans walk out of the stands and say, "Hey, are you not entertained? Oh, by the
Yeah.
way, I played you that movie earlier on in this week, and that was
Yeah.
the Michigan game, right?"
Hmm.
So he's a guy that is so intentional that they had a plan for this
Yeah.
bye week, and we got a chance to talk this week briefly to one of their players. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's all about fundamentals.
Yeah.
If you can get yourself into a situation where um, do have a bye, you get the rest, you have a coaching staff that can keep you dialed in on getting the fundamentals right, and be able to do it with one game. Hey, we're going to self scout, but we're also going to have these many weeks to scout the teams that we're going to potentially play.
Hmm.
And hey, look, we probably are going to play Ohio State, and we
Yeah.
played them before. So we have we have more time than the other team to prepare for, right? So the preparation aspect is what I'm leaning back on and falling back on as far as my confidence in them being ready to play this game.
Yeah, I agree with you, and the one thing I do like that I've heard from a lot of the players is that it's not just a time for them to, physically get recuperated and back to 100%, but a lot of them said that, like, this was a great, like, mental break to be able to just be like, "Alright, decompress a little bit, like, now we'll get back into it." Dylan Gabriel was saying that he took a couple days off and came back, and he's like, "I was just reminded how much I absolutely love this game." Like, putting the
Yeah.
helmet on, like, I just fell in love with it all over again, so I love that, but in a matchup where, or in a game where it comes down to so many matchups. I mean, these are two very, very even teams across the board. I don't know. Some people have
Yeah.
been saying, yeah, the rest advantage is so big for Oregon. And then part of me is like, I hear you, but like Ohio State's going to be rested too. They've had 12 days to prepare for this as well. So I don't think it's as big of an advantage as some people are saying. That's kind of one thing that gives me a little bit of concern going into this game is that there is a world where Oregon comes out a little bit flat just because they've had so much time off. But like you said, Dan Lanning is a guy. If there's anyone in the nation that I trust to have his guys ready and to, stoke the fire and get those flames going to where they do come out hot, it's Dan Lanning. So I think you're right
Yeah.
there.
And also too, it's all great and dandy that Ohio State Buckeyes beat up on Tennessee, but I think right now what we're seeing a shift in as far as like, you know, who's actually good in college football. SEC right now is not looking too good.
No, I agree.
And um the way they beat up on Tennessee, if they, that's great for their confidence, but there's a such thing as being overconfident.
Yes, I'm glad
And
you brought this up.
I'm actually happy that that happened for them, that they
Mhm.
now are going into this game and they're the favorites. And, you know, being a young athlete, you're going to listen to these tabloids. You can't hide from it like you used to. Like back in the day, I used to be able to not read, all you had to do was not read a newspaper,
Yeah,
right? Or not turn on the TV.
that doesn't
These
exist
days, you have your
anymore.
phone, and your phone's reminding you how great you are every
Uh-huh.
single day because you beat up on the Tennessee volunteers that aren't used to the cold weather and
Yeah.
wind. And so um, there's a lot of things that I think a lot of that the computer isn't taking into effect here as far as who they're choosing for favorites in this game. And I'm happy about that. And I actually think that it's healthy for Dan Lanning and these Ducks to have a chip on their shoulder,
Mhm.
especially being rested for so long. They can come out pissed off.
I think Ohio State's been smelling their own farts for the past couple of weeks.
Absolutely. It
And
stinks too.
they're feeling real good about that. I completely agree with you. I would so much rather them have won that game like they did 42-17 and be feeling absolutely as good as they have all year than if they, ground out a 38-35 game and got really tested and have a lot of things like it feels like I mean, this is
Yeah.
complete outside
But
perspective. I don't know what it feels like in that locker room, but they're feeling really good about themselves. Maybe that mean, once you get paid in the NFL, maybe you work less hard the next year because you finally achieved what you needed to. So it's that
and you
type of
gotta
thing
also
where
and to that same effect, right? When you beat up on a team, you're feeling confident, and sometimes you can be too confident. They also got their butts handed to them when they played Michigan. And
mhm,
so they went into that Tennessee game with that feeling of defeat. And not
yeah,
just an ordinary defeat, that was
the worst.
the granddaddy of them all.
Yeah.
So like that was your right, that was your big I mean, this year that was your big brother. So that beat you up and sent you packing into, you know, La La Land a little bit.
Yeah.
But so I'm pretty stoked about this matchup, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. Let's get into take a bake. I've got, like I said, a little bit something different this week. This take has been kind of baking for me since these two teams played back in October. I've kind of noticed a theme among Duck fans recently that it's not scared, but it's hesitant. About like they feel confident. They feel confident this team can win, but there's still that little. It's like a you put these fans in a bad relationship for so long as Oregon fans for decades, and they kind of have a little, just hesitancy about being
I have a
optimistic.
trauma.
There, yes, exactly. The trauma. That's the exact word I was looking for. So this week, I think, is a really big moment for Duck fans, not for the bandwagon fans, but I think for the OGs. I wrote
Yeah.
about this back after Oregon's first win over Ohio State. That Lanning was ushering a new era of hope. They won that game despite literally everything going wrong. I mean, there was the uncalled interception, missed
Yeah.
field
Early.
goal,
Missed
botched
field goal.
PAT, missed 2-point conversion, wide open touchdown on fourth down, fourth and goal that, that Dylan Gabriel just didn't see Tez running wide open. Trayshawn Holden ejected. It
Yeah,
had the
yeah,
makings,
spitting on someone.
yes, had the makings of a classic Oregon loss, but they won anyway. I
Yeah.
think that was big for Duck fans to see because it instilled a bit of confidence that Lanning's team can overcome bumps in the road. I wrote this back in October. Quote, is it fair to say that that's where the new Dan Lanning era of Oregon football is heading? To a place where the Ducks can enter these top five matchups and not expect pain and suffering to triumph? Can the children of the toilet bowl look ahead with optimism and confidence? There are still more chapters in Lanning's story to be written before fans of a self proclaimed cursed program can convince themselves of that, excuse me. But I saw enough evidence on Saturday night to consider it as a possibility. The Ducks had every right to lose that game and send their fans home with familiar frustrations that stretch back 13 years to Dyer was down and beyond. but this one ended differently. Who knows if that trend will continue and if we'll see the culture that Lanning has established in Eugene take deep enough root to overhaul decades of frustration and misfortune. While the Ducks are fun and flashy, deep inside every fan is a pessimistic misanthrope that expects the worst. The worst came against Ohio State, but the Ducks rose above. I say all of this because, I've noticed this pessimistic feeling kind of creeping up a little bit amongst fans once again. It's just becoming present again. I feel it in myself. I mean, when looking at this game, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm hopeful, but still deep inside, it's like, I don't know, man, that trauma is still there. And I'm still just a little, very cautious. I'm not saying it's the right feeling to have
Yeah.
because I know on paper that they can do this. They've done
Yeah.
it. They've beat this team before. But I've had this kind of internal battle with myself for the past few weeks that I'm struggling with and I know that I'm not alone. I guess all of this is just like my way of saying that if you resonate with that, like you aren't alone either. Duck fans have been programmed to feel this way. And, for the past several decades, that doesn't mean it can't change though. That's why
Yeah.
this week I think is huge. Just for like the psyche of this fan base. And I think that this game is going to have so much more weight than just a college football playoff game.
That's well said.
Yeah.
And Duck fans, I'm here to tell you that in my years of being an Oregon Duck and an Oregon Duck fan, this is a different year. It's a different team. They're
It
put
is.
together differently. This is the best Oregon football team that you've ever seen in your entire life. And so buckle up and enjoy the ride. And the cool thing is, man, I honestly think this is one of those things where I honestly think we're going to win the championship.
Mhm.
And if for whatever reason we do not, don't even want to say that right now, but
I know.
for
It's
whatever
tough.
reason that doesn't happen, we are in a better seat than we've ever been in the college program.
Yeah.
Recruiting wise, national attention, the times of college football in general and where it's headed, Dan Lanning has the edge. He
Yeah.
has the upper hand. When you talk about life is about leverage,
Yeah.
and we have all of it right now.
That's true.
So just chill out.
See, my brain hears you and my brain agrees with you, but my heart and my stomach is like, yeah, but
That's what's wrong with y'all, man.
I
See, look, I'm gonna tell you the secret to life. You want to know
I'm
the secret to
admitting that
life?
it's wrong. That it's
This is
trauma.
the secret to life.
I'm hearing.
It starts here. It starts here.
Uh-huh.
And then the more we tell ourselves things here, we start
Uh-huh.
really feeling it in our heart, right?
Yeah.
Start feeling it in your heart. And when we start making decisions, it comes from here.
Yeah.
Okay. We can't just be over here like, oh no, it's not gonna work out. Ah, house is on fire. And then you start wanting to make decisions like, oh, I want to make the right decision. Now you're playing hesitant. Now you're over here second guessing yourself. And when you should be throwing the ball away, you're sitting here holding it in the pocket and getting beat up. So it's all here, man. So
It's just scary, man. I mean, it's like I'm not scared of Ohio State or scared of the loss. I'm scared of the fact, and I'm saying I as like the general Oregon fan base,
yeah.
scared of the fact that we are at that point again where we are in a position to get hurt again. I mean, this fan base has felt hurt over the past
But
decades,
listen, what
losing
I'm trying to tell
championships.
y'all, you gotta transform your thinking. All
Okay.
right. You can't be great playing scared. You
Yeah.
can't be great thinking scared. If you want to be a great fan base, what you got to prepare yourselves for, you have to be absolutely out of your mind confident in the fact that your team's going to go out there and win. I'm telling you, players feel that.
Yeah.
Think about how annoying Ohio State Buckeye fans are.
God, yeah.
How
Very,
annoying are they? And why
very.
are they so annoying?
Because they're arrogant.
Because they're fearless. They're fearless.
That's
They
true.
believe to the cracks of dawn that their team is the best team in the world. And that's what's annoying about them.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying you have to be arrogant like
Mhm.
they are, but when you are sitting here talking about your team, you can just sit back and say, ha, smoke your cigar like Dan Lanning did in that video
Mhm.
and have nowhere in the world. Everything's going to be taken care of.
Damn. Good talk. I feel like
Yeah, man.
that wasn't even for
Yeah,
the podcast. We didn't
I
even need
got
the
to
recording for that. I feel much better.
yeah, I got to pull you back, man.
You got me. I believe. I believe.
See, you're gonna go to sleep tonight. You're gonna be packing all cheerful.
Yeah, I will. We're gonna win. God damn it, we're
Yes,
gonna win this game.
we're gonna win this game.
Let's do it.
Doggone right.
All right. On
And
that
think
note,
about that. When we win this game, coast. It's like a coast in my mind. We win this game. Just give us the keys.
that's another thing too. I mean, I was talking about to someone about like seeding, and they were complaining about the fact that this is the quarterfinal game. It's like, yeah, I hear that, but if we're gonna have to play Ohio State at some point this year, if you believe that you have to beat them at some point, I'd rather do it
I'd
now
rather beat them now,
when we are as healthy as we have
healthy
been
as
all
possible.
season.
Yes, you're
Yeah,
doggone
now's
right.
the time. Now's the time. You're right. All right, let's do it. We're gonna win this game.
Yep.
All right. On that note, let's talk about the game. Before we get into the point spread and predictions, I want to talk about matchups. I mean, this is a game of matchups: offense versus defense, cornerbacks, receivers, running backs, linebackers, all of that. What do you think is the single most important matchup that you're watching in this game?
The single most important matchup, man, that's tough.
I know there's a lot. I mean,
There's a
there's
lot,
several. Let's go through them and talk about them. But what are you looking at the most?
man. It's gonna come these close, tight games. It's gonna come down to special teams and turnovers. Period.
Okay.
And you can legitimately go down the line of history where it's the biggest games and where teams won and lost. And
Mhm.
it usually comes in the category of turnovers and how special teams showed up. And I'm
Yeah.
talking missed extra points, missed field goals, blocked punts, all of that, like muffled punt returns. All of that matters.
Oh yeah.
That has to be 100% for Oregon.
Mhm.
Everything else will take care of itself.
Yep.
Because the thing is, Ohio State's receiving core, if you thinking to yourself, you're going to shut them down,
No, they're pretty
you're
good.
not going to shut them down. But what you can do is you can contain them,
Mhm.
right? Contain. You got to think to yourself, go into this game and contain those dogs, those
Mhm.
Decepticons, in the words of Kenyon Barner. You have you have to contain, and it starts up front.
Yeah.
It's gonna like if I had to think about the matchups, our defensive line has to be more dominant than their offensive line.
Yeah.
That's where the matchup to me is.
Yeah, I'm looking at a similar thing. I mean, I think the biggest thing to look at for me in this game is which defensive line can get pressure on the other quarterback. I mean, because
Yep.
we've seen before Dylan Gabriel, so he's a really good quarterback. Sometimes when pressure comes in his face, I mean, earlier in the season he struggled. His pocket
Yeah.
awareness may not be as good as you've always wanted it to be, and that's not any knock on him. I mean, he's a fantastic quarterback, the best remaining quarterback in the playoff. Absolutely, I'd rather have him than Will Howard or anyone else. But same thing with Will Howard. I mean, if you put people in his face and kind of get him off kilter and kind of move him off his spot, he's not as
Yeah.
good. And I think Dylan Gabriel is really, really good at moving in the pocket and kind of, buying a little bit of extra time to keep his eyes downfield and make that throw. But I'm curious to see which defense can kind of get the most pressure. That's what I'm looking at the most in this game.
Yeah. Pressure is going to be important, and the reason why I say the defensive line, because if we can get four guys to
Hmm.
get pressure,
Yeah.
that's huge
Oh, yeah.
for our
Don't have to
secondary.
send blitzers. Yeah.
Nope, you don't have to depend on it, right?
Yeah.
I want to see blitzes. I want to see mixed up coverages. I want to see
Hmm.
late shifts
Simulated
and,
pressures.
and yeah, from the secondary. I want to see all that. I want to see rotation so that way we actually confuse Will Howard.
Hmm.
I think this is the college level. These guys are still developing. They're still learning, and so giving them more to process pre-snap puts them in a position to where they have to hesitate. And once they have to hesitate, that's when we get to the ball. Okay.
Yeah.
So that to me, the defensive line, if we can, I mean, a couple TE stunts here and there,
Mhm.
like get those boys mixed up on Jordan Birch. Oh man, we haven't played Jordan Birch yet. I
Yeah.
heard
We
he's a
haven't talked about him.
monster. You know what I'm saying? So like I think this is one of those things where this is going to be a different game, in my opinion, than what we saw in Eugene.
You think so?
I think so, man.
Okay.
Like they should just be watching the UW film, that defensive line.
God, that was so good. 10 sacks.
10 sacks.
See, what I'm really curious about is how Oregon's just general defensive scheme is gonna be. Because I mean, we saw what Tennessee did last game. I
Yeah,
don't I don't know, that's what I would try to do, kinda go single coverage, man coverage on the outside
yeah.
against Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, but
Well,
you look at what Michigan did the game before that, and they basically went against Ohio State and said, "Hey, we dare you to run the ball. We are
yeah,
gonna stick, 6 guys back in coverage, or 6 or 7 guys back in coverage. Make sure you don't throw over the top of us. Run the ball, please." I want to see
yeah,
how Dan Lanning goes about that, and if he, because they've got really good running backs. I mean, Trevion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, really good players, and they
yeah,
ran decently well against Oregon last time. But I think
yeah. They
that's
took
what Oregon can stop, and if you can at least limit I almost said Marvin Harrison Jr., Jeremiah Smith, and Emeka Egbuka, and make sure that they don't get chunk yardage and explosive plays, then I think you're really cooking with gas here.
yeah. Can't that's perfectly said.
Yeah.
The cover one thought process can only come in territory where you feel like you can actually get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
Like you're purposefully sending another guy.
Mhm.
So, um, everything else, like the defensive line, you have to pay attention to your cues. You have to pay attention to your landmarks. You can't get so far caught up into getting the edge, right?
Yeah.
Shooting all the way upfield. You have to find your landmark. All right, what is it? 3 yards. I can't get past 3 yards upfield because if I
Mhm.
do, he's gonna cut underneath me,
Yep.
right? And you have to pay attention to those little details so that way you contain a guy like that. And you start throughout the game, the you wear and tear on the offensive line by just playing your spots,
Mhm.
playing those landmarks on the field, and eventually those landmarks start pressing further and further and closer into the quarterback's lap
Mhm.
because the offensive line then gets worn out and tired, right? Because you're pressing and you're pressing. Don't just be shooting up the field all the time because that's when you start, you know, losing the quarterback out of the pocket.
Yeah.
Um, so don't want to see that. I really don't want to see that. I hate seeing it.
Oregon is plus 2.5, plus 110 on the money line with an over under of 55.5. Do I dare even ask how you're feeling about this game?
Man, look, Oregon by a bunch.
By a bunch. Really?
Yes,
Wow.
I think
God,
we
what I would
beat
do to have your confidence.
I think we beat Oregon. I think this is going to be one of those games where in the fourth quarter, Will Howard gives us something.
Okay. I can
Gives
see
us
that.
he gives us a couple presents, and it's because he's a guy that's emotional. He's an emotional player.
Uh-huh.
Like I've seen it, and he's
Yeah.
going to have something to prove in this game because of how he felt, how the game ended
He lost
last
in the
time we
last
played
one.
him, right?
Did you see what
So,
he said earlier this week? He said that still gives him nightmares, that play. He thinks
see,
about it
I
every
love
day.
that. Thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you for
Yeah,
telling us that.
thank you.
So now our defense that's ammo, bro. If you
Yeah,
telling me you got nightmares about me, dog, you
I
dream
know.
about me,
That was great.
you dream about me. Um, but um, but yeah, I think we win by gosh,
Don't give me your score prediction yet.
I'm not gonna do it yet, but I think we win by at least 7.
7. Okay.
Yeah.
I think, yeah,
I'll
I've
say
got us
actually
winning too.
I'll actually say 6.5
Okay. Yeah.
for the
I
betting
think
people out there.
I think we win too. What I'm curious about is the over under 55.5. Because I mean, last time it was what,
60.
63, 32,
Yeah.
31. I'm going under here. Everyone,
Yeah.
all the analysis that I've heard about this game, people talking, they think it's going to be a high scoring shootout. Once again, these are two of the best offenses in the nation, also two of the best defenses in the nation as well. I think that with so much time to prepare, and these guys know what each other do so well, I think it's going to be a little bit more of a low scoring game. I would be inclined to go out on a limb and say it's going to be the under here, but I also do like Oregon that plus 2.5. I would take them on the money line because I think they're going to win outright.
Yeah. I think defense and special teams, there's gonna be a score there.
Okay.
Um, not sure what side, but I just think that's gonna be a factor here.
I could see a
Um,
defensive score, yeah. Special teams, I
yeah,
don't know, but I could definitely see a fumble return or a pick six on here.
yeah.
All All right, do you have a bold prediction for this game?
I do have a bold prediction.
Okay, you kind of just gave one, but another one.
I think Kenyan Sadiq,
Damn, you just took mine.
he is going to be the difference maker of this game. And it's going to come from what I think we have to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be able to get him across the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why, G. Scott,
Mm-hmm.
the
They're tight
Ohio
end.
State's tight end,
Mm-hmm.
how they utilized him against us across the middle those 2 times tore us apart.
Yeah.
It scared me.
Mm-hmm.
Now that gives me nightmares.
Don't say that.
Now
Do you
we
think
need
about
to
them?
take a page out of their book
Yeah.
and have Kenyan Sadiq, because if you're gonna stop the passing game for any of these teams, you're not going to be in cover 1. You're not going to be in cover 3. You're not going to, you're going to have to be in some type of like cover 2, cover 4, something of that nature, right? Too much speed. And so you got to then take advantage of the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm anticipating, them drawing up plays to where he's catching balls across the middle of the field, whether it's a screens, little delayed routes and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm anticipating, because if I'm Oregon, I took note of that from the last game,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to prevent that on our side of the ball.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure that we actually utilize Kenyan Sadiq, because we've been slowly, giving little pieces here and there, little breadcrumbs
Yeah.
of who he is, and he's the future.
Yeah.
Hand over the keys.
I feel like I have to come up with a new bold prediction now because you basically just took that from me. I think that Kenyan Sadiq is going to be the X factor of this game. I mean, when fans talk about, oh, who did they have, who did they not have last game, it's always Jordan Birch, who did not have Jordan Birch, arguably the best player on the team last time. They also, I mean, they had Kenyan Sadiq, but they didn't know what they had with Kenyan Sadiq yet. I think he played something like 11 snaps, had 1 rush on an end around, and that was it. That's the only time he touched the ball.
Yeah.
We've seen since then that this guy is, I mean, we all knew it. We expected him to have this breakout, but he's finally having the breakout. And I think that he is just another extra dimension of this offense. I mean, you got Tez, you got Evan, you got Jordan, you got Terrence, you got Trayshawn. Oh, now you got Kenan Sadiq too. It's like,
Yeah.
that's so many people that you have to worry about, that you have to try and stop. I think, yeah, he is going to be the X factor in this game.
Yeah. And now that I think about it too, like if I'm a head coach, I'm an offensive coordinator, this is the biggest game of the year. We just talked about this, is in my mind, this is a national championship.
It is. It is.
And if I'm preparing for a game like this, I am going to give everyone something that they have not even thought about. Someone on that team that we're not talking about right now is going to show up in that game like, wow.
Yeah.
And maybe it's Trey Holden. Maybe it's Trey Holden.
Get some revenge. Not revenge, but vengeance, I guess, for what he did.
Just more so he wasn't a factor because he got kicked out of the game.
Yeah.
And it was Evan Stewart. It was Tez Johnson, right? And it was Ferguson. I mean, everyone's talking about Kenyan Sadiq. So if we're talking about him, then Ohio State knows about him.
Ohio State knows about him.
And so if you're a guy that's preparing for something, if I'm a betting man, it's something that no one's thinking about. So that's what that's something for the fans to look for.
Yeah. I mean, Will Stein has had 3 weeks to just do nothing but scheme and prepare for this game. So I'm sure he's going to show us something. My bold prediction, I think that Jordan Birch and Mateo Uyunglele are going to combine for, I was going to say 5.5, 5, maybe 6 sacks. I think at least 5 sacks.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're going to get after Will Howard. Ohio State's offensive line, they've been good, but they are still, I think, the weak part of that offense just because of the injuries they've had. And I don't want to take anything away from them. They've done really well, kind of shoring up for those injuries. Credit to them, but I don't know that they've played. I mean, Tennessee's got a good defensive line, but I don't like how Tennessee tried to play with their defensive line. I think that Oregon can get some games going, get some stunts, like you said, some DN stunts, and try and get after the quarterback. I think that's where this game's going to be won.
Yeah. I would challenge Ohio State to let Will Howard run.
I think that's
If you got
fine,
it.
and
Yeah, I would
he's
rather him beat us with his legs than anyone else beat us with
yeah,
whatever they got.
I agree. I think that our guys are a lot faster than them.
Yeah,
All right,
exactly.
let's get down to it. What's your score prediction for this game?
35-26.
35-26. Man, you got a 9-point win. Okay.
35-26.
Yeah.
35-26.
All right. I got Oregon 28, Ohio State 24.
Okay.
I think it's a lower scoring game, but I think that, Oregon's defense gets a big stop at the end and they can get out of there.
Yeah, one of those scores is an Oregon defensive score.
That'd be great. Yeah. A little scoop and score for Derek Harmon.
Or a blocked punt.
Blocked punt. We haven't seen that all year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You got anything else before we get out of here? I know that we both got travel days tomorrow, so let's rest up.
I think really, man, just it's gonna be a good game. The defense is the only thing that, if you're an Oregon fan and you're questioning anything, you question the defense, and rightfully so, because you're playing a really good offense.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a game where you have two giants, two champions that are facing off, and it's going to be a battle.
It's going to be such a good game.
It's going to be a really good game, and I think this is what the fans of all college football, we've all been wanting this. We've all been we wanted it so bad that we got it twice.
It's true.
We talked it up, right?
Yeah.
We said, oh, we'll play them twice at least.
Yeah, we want to at least, yeah.
Yeah, and so here we are getting an opportunity to do just that. And, Dan Lanning and company, being in California with the nice weather, it's going to be a beautiful thing to watch.
And I will say to all Oregon fans who were probably or maybe feeling a little bit like I was early in this and just have some of that trauma built up over years of watching this team get very, very close and fall just short. Why don't you rewind about 20 minutes? Just go listen to what Jay Stu said again. I think I'm going to play that on repeat while I go to sleep tonight while I'm driving to the airport because
yeah, man, a little
you got to believe. Got to believe. Nothing's going to happen if you don't believe. I think that's the core of it all.
And that's just life, man.
That's just life. Yeah. A good rule to live by. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I am going to be back. We may both be back depending on Jay Stu's travel schedule tomorrow. I'm at least going to hop on with Jimmy Chekwa and Bryant Browning with the Believe in Buckeyes podcast just for a little bit of trash talk before the game. That'll be recorded tomorrow night. So probably either posted late tomorrow night or early on Tuesday morning. And then we'll get something out after the game. I don't know what the plan is. It's going to be a crazy day. I fly out at like 5 a.m. on the 2nd. So, but we'll be working hard. We'll get something out, win or lose.
All right, man.
All right.
Go Ducks.
Yeah.
And sleep well. Make sure you pack your stuff, pack your toothbrush and your blanket.
Yeah, you as well.
Yeah.
All right.
You still have that blanket from when you were 5.
No, I might have to steal one from my daughter or something. All right. You can check out more of my work at ducksfire.usatoday.com. Follow me at Zachary C. Neel on Twitter. Follow Jay Stu on Twitter at JonathanStuR1. Make sure to check out the Believe in Panthers podcast and the Stu and Group podcast. For myself, Zach Neel, for my co-host Jonathan Stewart, we'll talk to you guys later this week. Until then, take it easy.